the first thing you guys need to do is a site survey. I'm fully aware you have all been to all of the arenas and fields at your universities, but now you're going to be looking at these fields and these arenas in a totally different light. We're no longer concerned on where's the best place to sit or how close the hot dog stand is, okay? We're looking at where are we going to put our cameras? Is there enough power? Is there safety? Do we have cable runs? Do we have to make sure that we have to tape down or lock down any cables? Is there going to be anybody standing in front of us? The one thing I want you to always think about is we're not just talking visual obstructions, but think about also your audio obstructions. Are there going to be fans sitting right next to you? Are you going to have a bunch of girls that are going to sit and talk about what they did last night right below your camera? Nobody wants to hear that. So these are things that you need to think about as you're choosing where you're going to be. If you're talking about your cameras that are going to be on the court, where are the refs okay with you being? Okay, there's always a run out. When it comes to basketball, right underneath the court, you have to be on one side or the other because there has to be that lane for players to run into the actual basketball hoop. I don't know if you guys know this, but so you have to be out on the sides. Make sure that your camera guys are safe at all times. These are things that we have to now think about. So I really encourage you to go back out to these sites. Go back out with a different mind, a pad of paper. Start thinking about options. Don't always have to play it safe. You don't have to go with the two baselines. Maybe a better look is a slash camera. This arena gives you a great opportunity for a slash camera. It gives you just a different look. And so look at your arenas. Figure out what you need to make sure that your show is the best one that you can get. So once you've done that, once you've looked at power, once you've looked at camera placement, once you've thought about audio, once you've thought about safety, all of those things, and you've made sure with your home schools, with the refs, you know the rules, and you've got a layout of where you want everybody to be, you have to start staffing your show, okay? So I recommend that you have a crew. If you have three cameras, if you have four, obviously four, a graphics operator, and then yourself. Most of you that will be producing shows will also be directing, actually like switching with the TriCaster. Sometimes those of us in this room will be running the cameras, some of us will be doing graphics, things like that. But at the very least, you want to try to get at least 5 people on your crew. I really strongly suggest that you try to find people that know the sport you're working. I know sometimes this is difficult, but ask them. When you say, hey, can you run camera for the basketball game on Thursday night? Don't be afraid to say, do you know basketball? If the answer is no, that doesn't mean that they can't be a part of your crew. That just means you know what camera to put them on. It's much easier for someone that doesn't know the sport to run a game camera and do this all day long than to run a handheld, to run a baseline camera looking for reacts or looking for the storyline along the way. Okay? When you're talking about your graphics, same thing. When you choose somebody to run your graphics, you want them to know the sport. They need to be able to anticipate what graphics you're going to need. If there's a foul called, they should be looking at what player is going to go to the line and have a font ready for you when they're there. If they're sitting there going, what was the whistle for, and what's the rule, and what's going to happen, that moment's gone. Okay? So really talk to the people that you have on your staffs and find out what their strengths are and then try to place them in those places. It'll make your production better and it'll also make them succeed. You never want to put someone in a position where they're not going to succeed if at all possible. Okay? So if they're familiar with the show or with the sport, it's going to help them anticipate and help your show. So you want to do your research, and a lot of you guys are in contact with your coaches, SIDs, ADs all the time. Now, I do ask you to, when preparing for your game, that you talk to them again. Again, like I said about the site surveys, you're doing it in a different light. Now you're looking for storylines. So you want to ask about injuries. You want to ask about history stuff. You always want to ask coaches and SIDs 2 questions. One, is there something I need to know about the game? Okay? That means we had to fly somewhere and our point guard's afraid of flying. Those storylines are going to make your talent look even better and have a storyline. The second question I always ask coaches is there something that you want people or recruits to know? And the reason why we're going to do this is because this gives the coaches the opportunity to say, whatever it is, it makes this university great. This allows our talent to say, I talked to Coach Harris and he said, they may be on a losing streak right now, but his players are going to learn patience and they're going to be mature by the time this season's over. We want to remember one thing. We are on the same team, okay? Our coaches are only going to help us to get better. And in that case, when we have situations where we need to ask them a favor for an interview, or we may have a coach that has an affinity for bad words that we have to later go back and talk to them about, we're all on the same team. And if we make them look better, they'll help make us look better, okay? So we want to ask them those questions. Also, reach out to the opposing team. Reach out to the opposing team. What you guys have to remember is that these broadcasts are no longer only about your own home schools. These are about the West Coast Conference. They're airing on WTV. So they're West Coast Conference games now. They're not just BYU or just USD or just Portland anymore. Okay, so we want to stay as fair and even as we can. I understand a lot of us have, play-by-play guys that have been here for years that will do the radio and know this school much more than the next school. But as producers and as staff, all we can do is our best to keep it even. Okay, so reach out to the other schools. Ask them the same questions. Is there any storylines that you would like us to talk about? What do you want? Any messages you want to get out to recruits? Because that also is your audience, is recruits for your school. You're not only representing your home school, but you're representing the conference. And the best light that we can do that is what we want to do. Okay? So we want to make sure that we definitely talk to both sides. We want to format our show. We want to know what elements we have in mind. So we have our talent. Is it going to be one or two people? Do we have a play-by-play and an analyst? Are we going to put them on camera at all? So we want to know, are there TV timeouts, which we'll get to? Are we going to talk about upcoming schedules? Is there any events that your university would like to get out for a promo? Anything like that? Are we going to talk about standings? Are we there? Are we going to promo the next game? Not necessarily just the next basketball game, but do you have another game that you want to promo? So these are things we're going to start talking about when we get into formatting our show and what our show is going to look like. So the first thing you need to find out is if you have TV timeouts. So I have football on here. You guys don't need that. Lacrosse. One thing I did want to have on here is basketball for you guys to understand. All NC2A referees have done TV timeouts. Now, I'm aware that as of now, the WTV hasn't sold their commercial breaks. And they are wanting to get more and more promos as we go along, okay? So the goal is by the time this season is done, we're going to need to start implementing those TV timeouts. I would highly suggest you start it now. This way, when you do have that sold time, it's no longer a new thing. This is something that your refs are used to going in, okay? So for basketball, across the board, across the United States, in every network, you have TV timeouts that are held under 16, 12, 8, and 4. Always. Anywhere. For ESPN, for CBS, for ABC, for TNT, everywhere, this is where it is. The only difference is between if it's a 90-second break or if it's a 2-minute break, okay? I try to keep it a 90-second break. I feel like that doesn't change the momentum of the game. We're not asking for too much. We're not, as of right now, going away anywhere anyways. But I do like to implement that. So what you're going to need to do is before the game, either you or someone on your staff meets with the ref and say, hey, just want to let you know we do have to take TV timeouts, okay? Make sure they know it's 16, 12, 8, and 4. It always is. It's one of those great things in life that you can count on, okay? And then it'll always be up to you on how long that is. Again, I go 90 seconds. Gives me enough time to get to break, be gone for a minute, come back from break if I have any storylines I want to get in without asking too much. Also, with a TV timeout and asking for 90, chances are you don't need a red hat or a TOC, depending on what your school calls a timeout coordinator. They're usually gone for that amount if the refs just know you're going to go for a media break, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay. If by any stretch of the imagination you see the players start coming out, you can always bail out. You can always come back early, and then you'll just know that next time you have to be on them again. Hey, next couple of games ago, we came back a little early. Just want to remind you, I still need to be gone for 90 seconds. Until we get those sold and we're actually gone, you can always play with that. Elements. Elements sometimes is the stuff you got to do a couple of days before. Now, these are the things that you want to keep in mind. Are there any commercial elements? Will you be running your institutional spots for your own schools or for the schools you're playing? Are you going to be running a conference spot, WCC? You'll want to make sure that you've downloaded those from the FTP site and you've put them on your TriCaster. Once they're in your TriCaster, they can live there forever. You just need to make sure you know that they're there, okay? Any graphics that you need. Oftentimes, Campus Insiders will send us updates for our graphics. So you want to be in touch. Is there any new updates? Maybe check the site, the FTP site. Maybe send a couple emails if there's anything new that you'll want to get. A lot of your graphics can be pre-built. Okay, and what I mean pre-built is you guys will each be getting a laptop. On those laptops, you'll have the entire graphics package. Okay, these graphics package will be the same package you'll use all season long. Now, some of them are sports specific. I always have a hard time with that word. Such as your lineups. Okay, so I unfortunately don't have the basketball package quite yet. I'm getting it this week. You guys will be getting it this week. But I have some examples for you that you're going to be looking at and be like, wait, but it's just to give you an idea. But the things that you can pre-build, your player bios, never changes, right? I mean, they're always going to be this height and they're always going to be from Wichita, Kansas. So you can build those, have those ready. You can pre-build your upcoming schedules. You can do that a couple of days in advance. You can do, if you have any promos at your next game, your copyright, things like that. Have those pre-built, have those in the bank. So you don't have to worry about those, okay? You can have both teams' bios done. You can even have season stats done the night before. Take yourself an hour to do, less stress. You don't have to worry about it. If you have a different graphics person and it's not you building this stuff, make sure they know ahead of time what you want. Get them the laptop so they can build it, so it's not a cram stress situation. Promise you, the least you have to do that day will make your life a lot better, okay? So bios, coaches, on your coach's graphic, you can do their record. If you don't have enough time, you can talk about how long they've been there. There's lots of information that doesn't change that you can have pre-built,